Okay, so for tutorial 12, we are going to look into supply side policy. So as the word suggests, right? We talk about supply side policies. Okay, it is used to influence the aggregate supply in the economy. So the purpose of supply side policy is to influence, okay, to influence aggregate supply, or we call it as AS, right? AS curve. So when we talk about aggregate supply, that means we are referring to the total outputs. Okay, that means here we are referring to total outputs. That means the purpose of supply side policy is to increase the total outputs in the economy, right? To increase the potential capacity of the economy so that the economy is able to produce more. Okay, so therefore, when you look into the intention of supply side policy over here, they say that the intention is to influence the aggregate supply directly, okay, with the aim to increase the potential outputs. So when I say potential outputs, that means I'm referring to the productive capacity of the economy, which is the long run aggregate supply, okay, in order to achieve the macro objective. Okay, what are the macro objectives that we learned before? Long run economic growth, okay, low unemployment, price stability, okay, balance of payment stability, and so on. All right, but what's most important is you need to know that supply side policy is to influence aggregate supply. When you learn demand side policies like fiscal and monetary, those are what we call as demand side. That means the intention is to influence aggregate demand. Okay, so therefore there's a distinction between demand policies, demand side policies and supply side policies over here. When we talk about supply side policy, it can be categorized into two categories. This one we just go through quickly. The first one is market-oriented approach, and the second one is interventionist approach. Okay, market-oriented approach means that today these are the policies that's trying to encourage or to increase the initiative or the incentive in the markets. Like for example, government cut the income tax. Now you see, when we talk about government cutting the tax, you learn this in fiscal policy as well. Then how come here we also say as a supply side policy? It could be a bit confusing, right? Now, so you see, when you talk about fiscal policy, when we talk about expansionary fiscal policy, we say that government reduce taxes to increase aggregate demand. Here we say that government reduce income taxes is to increase aggregate supply. Then how do we know whether it's demand side or supply side? That depends on the intention of the government. So if the government's intention is to increase the aggregate demand, then it's demand side. If their intention is to increase aggregate supply, to encourage more people to become an entrepreneur, to work longer, then it is supply side. Yeah. So therefore, there are some of the instruments like this one, which is duplicating. Okay, you see that in demand side and you see that in supply side as well. Okay, so the left-hand side here, market-oriented approach, that means we are referring to the initiative that we want to increase the incentive of people like to produce more outputs, for example. Like, therefore, what are the methods that we have here? Cutting income tax, reduce government expenditure, okay, reducing the power of trade union. We wouldn't want the power, we wouldn't want the trade union to be too strong to the extent where they can threaten the employers to ask for higher wages, and if they do not pay them higher wages, they will just stop the production. So we wouldn't want that the trade union to be too powerful. Okay, reducing the automatic welfare entitlement so that people will not rely on the welfare so much. Policy to encourage competition. Okay, abolish capital controls, and also reducing red tapes. So you can see on the left hand side over here is more of like making the markets more competitive and making people to have more incentive to work longer, to produce more, or to become entrepreneur, for instance. That's what calls market-oriented approach. On the right-hand side is called interventionist approach. Interventionist approach means that today these are the initiative that's being done by government as an intervention to the market. So therefore, like for example, if today government intends to increase the productive capacity of the economy to enable the country to be able to produce more, what happened is they can intervene in the market. When they intervene in the market, like let's say by injecting some money to actually get started with some training and education program, that's what I call as interventionist approach. Okay, like for example, giving grants, giving financial assistance, giving what we call as training sessions, education and training, direct provision of the infrastructure, Okay, so all this, as long as it includes the intervention of the government directly, that's what we call as interventionist approach. Now, when you revise, you don't really have to know whether what is in market-oriented approach or interventionist approach. What is important is that when you learn supply-side policy, you just need to know what are the instruments of the supply-side policies. Like at least now you know that, okay, education and training, okay, is one of the supply-side policy. Direct provision of infrastructure is one of the supply side. Provision of technology is also one of the supply side. So you just need to know what are the instruments that can result in the shift of the aggregate supply curve. Okay, now so overall I can summarize into very simplest form, which is this one, the bottom one. Okay, so have a look into the bottom one over here, which is the 4 sources of the long run economic growth. So these 4 sources over here, okay, are considered as supply side policies. That means that these are the impacts, okay, that can result in the shift of SAS and LS curve. Okay, you learned this in your chapter 1 before. So overall, when you are being given a scenario, as long as the policy itself fits in any of this category, then you can call it as a supply side policy. Okay, so you see, you don't have to go and remember, oh, what is market oriented and what is intervention approach. Those are just intro only. Okay, so for example, the first source is that technological innovations. Like for example, if government spend money on research and development, spends on innovations, okay, or like discover some of new technologies, okay, or some efficient production process, all this will result in the improvement in productivity. So it's a supply side. Second, human capital. When government provides education and training, okay, so what happens is people become more skills and qualified, higher skills and qualification. So therefore, they will be able to be producing more outputs, more productive. Okay, increase in physical capital, like for example, government providing more new machineries, okay, infrastructure, okay, and equipment. So these will increase the total outputs, the total productive capacity of the economy as well. Okay, the fourth one, rise in population. Well, let's say there's a rise in population, which increase the labor force. Okay, that will also increase the total outputs in the economy. But bear in mind, this one is arguable because it can result in diminishing marginal returns as well. Okay, that means that a reduction in the real GDP produced per labor due to inefficiency. That's what we learned in the chapter 1 as well. Remember, when we have too much of people, what happens is people might get into each other ways and therefore resulting in diminishing marginal returns. So these 4 over here can be considered as the sources of long run economic growth, and therefore these 4 can be considered as supply side policies. Okay, so therefore if there is a question asking you, what are the ways for the government to able to achieve economic growth, you can just throw in any of the points over here. Like for example, you can say, okay, first government will need to provide education and training, okay, and explain, because education and training will increase the skills and qualification of people, so this enhance the productivity. Okay, so my point is, whatever it is, right, stick to these 4 sources over here in explaining supply side policy. Okay, now let's have a look into tutorial questions. So first of all, how do you show the impacts of supply side policies? Now, first one, they ask you what are the determinants of long run economic growth. So basically, you are referring to the 4 sources as I mentioned in the recap just now. Okay, but what's most important is the graph. Now, I want you to follow this one on the right here. Okay, so when we talk about supply side policy, it will shift both SAS and LS curve rightwards. Why is that so? Because we already say that these are the sources of the long run economic growth. Long run economic growth means LS curve, the productive capacity of the economy. So whatever shift the LS curve will shift the SAS curve as well. Okay, so therefore, when you talk about supply side policies, the impact is shifting the SAS and LS curve rightwards. Okay. Now, let's have a look into question number 2. Which of the following will have an impact on technology or human capital or capital accumulation? Indicate also which curve will shift. So first of all, subsidies given to the producers. Now, subsidies, okay, given to producers. The intention of subsidies is to reduce the cost of production and encourage producers to produce more. For this one, actually, it will not really shift the LS curve. It will not result in an increase in the productive capacity of the economy, but it will only increase the short-run aggregate supply curve. Okay, so therefore, when we talk about subsidies, in which the intention is to lower the cost of production and to expand the production of the producers. For this one, it only affects SAS only. Okay. The next one, the government allocates 1.2 billion for free Medicare insurance and to increase the awareness of diabetes and its inherent dangers amongst the population. So therefore here, it's talking about government providing free insurance, okay? And so people are aware of what is diabetes so that people will be more health conscious. So therefore you can see that this question here is actually a bit arguable. When you talk about government spending money on insurance, that's about increasing government spending. Increasing government spending is more on aggregate demand curve. Okay, it could be demand side policy, but it's arguable it can be supply side policy as well, because when people are more health conscious, what happens is this can increase the life expectancy of people so that people can stay longer, increasing the number of population in the country. So again, it can still shift SAS and LS curve because of the rise in the population. Okay, next one, 5.5 billion allocated to extend all 4-lane interstate highways. So you see, highways is about infrastructure. So therefore, spending on the infrastructure like highways, okay, that is the transport, that is the transportation. So it's about the investment of physical capital. So shifting both SAS and LS. Next question, the government allocates 300 million for the training human capital. So it shifts SAS and LS. Lastly, it's talk about government gives some grants to the firms to do research in the solar power energy. So again, it links to the technological development. So therefore, it shifts SAS and LS. So when you were to explain the supply side policy, make sure you always link to the sources first and then talk about the impacts. Like for example, the last question E, you know that they're talking about technological developments. So you say that this is technological developments and therefore it enhance the productivity, shifting both SAS and LS. That's how you explain your answers. Okay. Okay, so quick one. Next question. Okay, so question 3, basically they talk about some initiative being implemented by Najib that time. So for example, first one, you can straight away see the bullet points over here. 38.7 million to improve the quality of education. Okay, and they get more teachers as well to teach the core subjects. And also the next one, the government will allocate 440 million to the skills development. So skills development fund. Okay, and to provide loans for trainees to undergo skills training. Okay, the next one, a total of 500 women will be trained. So everyone will be trained as board members under the women's director. And next one, SOCSO will allocate 200 million to enable its 1.4 million members to undertake free health screening. Okay, in government hospitals. So which of the points mentioned in the above article would have a long run impact on the aggregate supply? So basically all the points will have. Okay, so all the points except the first paragraph. The first paragraph is not relevant here because first paragraph is just talking about they are giving BRIM to people. Giving BRIM is just a government spending, government spending the transfer payment to the people who are in need. So the first paragraph is not relevant. But after the first paragraph, the bottom parts over here, all these will have an impact on the LS curve. So since they will have an impact on LS curve, so they will shift the SAS curve as well. So the impact of this is it will shift SAS and it will shift LS curve. All right. So therefore, we can call it as a supply side policies. Okay. Okay, next question. Petrol prices dropped 35 cents, diesel 30 cents from January 1. So it's all talking about the fuel prices only. So assuming a recession gap, so that means you need to start to draw the diagram with a recession gap. Okay, use an ADS diagram to explain the effects of lower fuel prices. So lower fuel prices is only affecting the cost of transportation. So therefore, lower cost of transportation, it affects the SAS curve only. So it's not a supply side. You will not shift both graph, you only shift one graph, which is SAS curve. Okay, so therefore the answers will be about lower fuel prices, reducing transportation costs, and shifting SAS curve rightwards. Shifting the right, because here is lower fuel prices. So lower fuel prices means lower cost of transportation, so that the producers will be able to produce more or transport more. So therefore, SAS curve will shift rightwards. Yeah, rightwards. Okay, so these are the contents of the supply side policies. Okay, so now what we're going to do is to look into additional questions. These are the focus of your revisions. Okay, so let's have a look into first question. Briefly describe 4 government aids that can boost the economic growth. So that means 4 government initiatives that can boost economic growth. So what can you write over here? So you can always remember the standardized answers. You know, if you do not know what to write, you can throw in training and education that improves skill and qualification. Okay, so education, training and education that improve human capital. That's one of the answers. Okay, what else? Technological developments also can. Okay, R&D also can. Okay, so I provide you some key points here. Have a look. Let me zoom in a bit bigger. Okay, so here I provide you some answers. Education and healthcare that improve human capital. R&D to improve the physical capital. That means like technology equipments. Okay, investment in technologies or introducing property rights and enforce the rule of law, for instance. Now, why is that introducing property rights can result in economic growth? Is because, like, first of all, right, if let's say there's no any property rights or no trademark, what happens is people can just take away other people's belongings so easily. Then that do not give incentive to people to actually produce more goods and services. So therefore, there is a need to enforce this kind of law so that people will feel that they are protected when they were to come up with some innovations, for example. Okay, so therefore that will result in economic growth. Okay, question 2 is something that we discussed before. Explain true benefits of encouraging investment in rural areas. So therefore, this is what we discussed, like to provide jobs, to develop the area, to give more business opportunities, to improve the infrastructures, or to provide some social benefits to the region itself. So this one, I have provided you the answers in your notes so that you can refer to that. Okay, now next question. Okay, next question. Next question is explain two factors which influence the level of investment in a country. So what would be your answers? Two factors. What are the factors that could influence the level of investment in a country? I think we discussed something like this before. Interest rate? Yes, correct. Interest rate. So interest rate will be one of it. So when you talk about interest rate, how do you explain that? You can link that to the cost of borrowing. Okay, cost of borrowing. So a lower interest rate, that means there will be a lower cost of borrowing, and therefore that could result in higher level of investments. That's one of it. What else? Exchange rate. Possible, still can, but how do you explain that? Still can exchange rate. Okay, so let's have a look into some answers here. There are a lot, but I did not explain here, but I want you to try to think about how to explain. Okay, so first I thought about consumer demand. So whenever there's an increase in consumer demand towards that particular products or towards that particular industry, then it may result in higher investment for that sector as well. Okay, availability of finance, that depends on whether how easy the firms can easily access to money or taking loans when they were to increase the investment. Okay, pace of technological advancements, like for example, if let's say technology is quickly outdated, so what happens is they need to keep pace to remain competitive, so they need to continue to invest. Corporate tax rate also, lower corporate tax rate will actually encourage firms to be able to have more retained earnings to invest more. Okay, so these are the factors over here. So when you go back and revise, try to think about the explanations. Okay, let's go on. Okay, next question. This one came out midterms already, so I just show you. Explain two governments appropriate measures to reduce country's unemployment problem. So that means what are their ways they can do to reduce the unemployment problem? So same thing, provide training education, provide jobs. Here I also mentioned about encourage local industry to create jobs opportunities by giving financial assistance or reduce imports by imposing trade restrictions. Okay, so these are what you had at hand during midterm. Next question will be interesting. I want to know how will you approach this question. Government economy policy should be aimed at the needs of citizens, employment, health, education, and good environment. Okay, it should not concentrate on the balance of payments and GDP of a country. Discuss whether there's any truth in this statement. How will you answer this question if it's a 10-mark questions? So they're saying that government should just aim for like creating employment, ensuring the health of people, providing good education and environment to the people. It should not just only on balance of payments and GDP. How will you answer this? First, you can talk about why government may focus more on balance of payment and GDP first, because that's how we measure economic growth, right? We look into GDP to measure economic growth. So if the country is able to produce more outputs, then chances are the country is having more outputs to be consumed. So therefore, having more potential. Okay, but we need to recognize other macro objective as well. So therefore, the intention of this question is actually to test you about what are the other macro objective that the government should be aiming for as well, apart from BOP and GDP. Okay, so therefore, you can have a look into here. Here, again, there's no proper answers here. You can, oh, there's proper answer. Oh, no, let me zoom. Okay, so therefore, what you can talk about is basically saying that they are other objectives that the government should focus on as well. So you utilize what are the macro objectives that you learned before. And the discussion point, what you need to talk about is this statement is incorrect. Okay, they should not just concern on GDP and BOP. Okay, because remember we said that GDP is not a good measurement, despite GDP could be increasing very high, but not that it does not reflect very well in terms of the standard of living, because it neglects a lot of the components like the quality of health, quality of education, okay, the life expectancy of people. Okay, so therefore it doesn't give a full picture. Okay, so therefore what happened is we will need to look into the other objective as well. Okay, like for example healthcare, education, labor force, production. Okay, so basically these are some of the points that I want you to read through it when you revise for this question. Okay, I just want to go through question with you. So these are the additional questions which was previously past year as well. Okay, so now we are done with tutorial 12. Let's move up to tutorial 11, additional questions that we had not discussed yet. Okay, so let's have a look into question 7. I think question 7 I asked you to try it out last week already. So okay, question 7 is important. So this one will be one of the exam questions based on her scope. So read the question properly when it comes to exam. So here they're asking you briefly explain how central bank controls inflation. Okay, how central bank controls inflation. Sometimes they may change the question by saying that how they tackle recession instead. Okay, so make sure you read the question properly since you know this is one of the exam questions. Okay, so make sure see whether they are talking about tackling inflation, okay, or tackling recession. Okay, so this one, you make sure you put all these points into your answers and then draw the graph. So you have 3 graphs in total that you will need to draw together. Okay. Okay, okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, analyze 2 reasons why central bank refuse to print money to support the economy. Why? This came out as last semester question as well. So what answers do you have? Analyze 2 reasons why central bank refuse to print money. Yes, any other answers? Inflation, no? Oh, one of the answers is inflation, no? Okay, inflation. What else? This question, she asked as a 15 marks question in the last semester. This question. But she asked for 3 reasons. Well, let's try to think about 3 reasons. 15 marks. Real value of money will. Okay, can. Okay, so overall, 3 key points you can think of is let me write over here. Okay, so at least you can try to think about these 3 areas. First, you talk about inflation. Second, you can think about the the value. Okay, the value of the currency will be depreciated, or you can say depreciate. Okay, the value of currency. Okay. Here, depreciate the value of currency is more of an exchange rate now. That means your currency is carrying less and less value in the international markets. But this is what you say about the real value of money, right? It's more of under inflation. So you can say that the real value of money falls. So therefore, less real purchasing power. You can talk about this. Okay. Depreciate the value of currency means that it's getting cheaper for the foreigners to buy the country's currency. Okay, and you can also talk about fall in the value of savings. So if you are saving your money in banks, then the value of the amount will become less and less. So these are the 3 areas that you can focus on when you were to write these questions. I will still show you the answers, but you just write down these 3 main scopes here first. Okay, so now, all good, right? Okay, let's just wait for a while. 还没有人好吗？哇，今天我很想念你们呢，真的，哎，一个星期太短了。Okay, these are some of the answers here you can refer to. But when you write your answers, refer to the 3 scoop that I told you just now. But this one, you take a photo, then you can write some additional explanations. If let's say it comes out 15 marks, 1 5. Okay, so just some additional thoughts. Okay, next question. Discuss whether inflation will harm everyone in the economy. Discussion question usually is both sides. Who will benefit and who will be harmed? Huh? Producers will benefit, okay, because producers can have the incentive to mark up the prices every year, okay, because of inflation. Okay, who will be harmed? Consumers. Okay, consumers will be harmed. So I provide you some answers here. You can have a look. Okay, so you can see who will get affected and who will get benefit. Okay, so lenders will be harmed as well because when you lend people money, okay, and if let's say you do not raise your interest rate, then chances are when people pay you back the money, then the money will carry less real value. Okay. On the other hand, borrowers will benefit from it. If let's say, for example, the interest rate is not in line with inflation, what happened is when they actually pay the lenders back the money carry less real value. Okay. And when there's inflation, usually skilled workers will benefit as well because they are the one who can ask for higher wages, for instance. Okay. 我们早八课还可以这样精神，厉害耶，很精神哦。是可以。是啊，哎呦，又来讲这样的话了。诶，Who is 袁挺啊？哦，是你啊？哦，嗨，哦，他们哦没有啦，因为就那天我亲戚跟我讲，他跟你同班过，我的亲戚的孩子啊，对啊，嗯，对啊，that's right，好奇而已，好奇而已，对啊。然后还有一个是巧慧是，哦，同班，哦，哈哈哈。你们是别班的是吧？你们是这班的哈？还是？人他每次讲有几个是从另一个班来，是谁？不是有wow, someone asked question through WhatsApp for this question. Okay, so one question that I got from WhatsApp regarding this question is that why is that we talking about the benefit as well? Discussion questions we have to argue both sides. Okay, so discussion question we argue both sides. We say who get harm and who get benefits. 特别嘞，这样要用 WhatsApp 来问问题的。Okay, now next question. Very challenging one. Next question. An increase in the money supply at full employment will create an inflation gap. Explain the view of Keynes with an appropriate diagram. So now I give you a task. You find out what graph you need to draw for this question. For this question, what graph you need to draw? You need to link to Keynes. This is an interesting part already. Keynesian. So can you find out which graph you will need to draw for this one? We can look back for all your notes. Find out which one is the one that can answer this question. Yeah, you are right, and 对啊，那个是答案。很认真的你也可以这怎么做到的，对吧？那是 Microsoft 的哦，所以他可以把全部放在一起啊。我自己做。Microsoft 有这样多function的，OneNote 哦，特别好用看。因为电脑。Hey, so can find what's the graph for a lot. What about this? So which one do you draw? Any idea which graph? You can refer to my notes. We covered something like this before. Wow. Oh, you must try the graph, correct? This one. You don't have Keynesian. I know. Don't have Keynesian. 它对一般的，对一般的。So I don't need to have money supply, money demand because I just want kids. I want like kids lah. But how can you find out the graph that has the Keynesian connect with ADS? Find my notes not inside one. Huh? Yes, we are. John Mathematics. No. You already focus on like government spending resulting on higher after. 你看我的 tutorial 比较好，tutorial 本地，做还懂不懂的？我们学过了，知道吗？啊，知道。Almost there. That's only showing initial, but I want to show that one with ES. Okay, you follow the right graph ready? Yes, follow the right graph. Okay, follow the right graph. 完了。Yes. 完蛋了。对啊，这个还好，对啊，是左的。啊，你要我不是你要我。诅咒人家这个女。人家很高分的，当然可以诅咒人的，现在。他什么都很高分的，知道吗？Okay, that's the here's the answers. You can use either like for Esther, you can use the one the money supply and FDAS actually because I think that time no one able to draw this one. So you can draw FDAS and FDAS also can another one is what is it? FDAS. 这里让我感觉到你的改变最大，因为我不给讲话，第一次问我反正是不是学存钱的，是存钱。哇，很会讲话。You want to see a 7 marks then? You want to see? Let us see 啊，不要给我拍照两张。Okay. Okay, so we are done with this one already. Okay, next one. Okay, we need to do next one. Wow, time flies. Okay, tutorial 11 we done. 看我才讨论完重要的东西才回来呀。哎呀，我还讨论一个很重要的东西吧。这我什么都不懂啊。哎呦。Okay, so now next one which tutorial we haven't done yet tutorial 10. 你从最近去的有没有？Okay, so tutorial 10 important okay. Tutorial 10 I want you to look into question 4 and 5. Okay, question 4. Question 4. How will you answer question 4? If the value of MYR is overvalued against US dollars, appreciated. State the implications, the impacts for Malaysia's employment level and the country's income. So what points will you write for this one? 挑战一下嘞。这题真的看到 last time 的嘞。
要挑战一下我脑啊，我没有。
啊，反正这越读越爽啊，对不对？上个还是不要说assignment成绩比较好啊，然后说也直接不要读了。感觉你写的东西有些是比较好嘛，可是没有办法看的，会有点意思啊。因为你是我说才看得出你这样会大概的感觉，所以我觉得可以吹得到会比速这样子感觉，有点小一点。努力，一般都考试啊，这样子在身份比较，身份比较，免费做谁的呢？应该那种没有考试，你就可以考了。一定要，哎，什么不玩？I think you're good at that. Do more faster. 就得到适合你这个，简直是适合你这个。哎，什么？You answer this one 啊？Unemployment for because domestic market not stable. So, right. It's unemployment for now. It's not stable. I saw it. Employment people, sorry. Employment level. So, now can we see how the country also for due to people household and people buy more imports than so local industry. So must explain all these impacts, So so 一没有他那个班就没有答案了，你知道吗？Okay, question 4. Okay, and then so question 4. Hey, hold on, don't take photo first. Hold on, this one no need. Wait, hold on first. 不要这样急，这个 this one you cut off. Okay, like this. Explain properly, because it's 4 marks. I want to have the points. Like explain how is that resulting in lower employment, and how is that affecting lower country's income. Must explain properly, wait, this question. Put 3 stars, this one. Section A. Okay, next question. Some American economists argue that higher interest rate would unusually improve America's economic growth. Explain why it might be said that this link between interest rate and economic growth is unusual. So by right, we always say that lower interest rate that only affects higher economic growth. How come here is higher interest rate, therefore resulting in higher economic growth? Because US is a strong economy. So when their interest rate is higher, they can attract a lot of people to actually put their money in US financial institutions. So we say that a higher interest rate will attract the hot money flows, the money that is trying to take advantage of higher interest rate in the international markets. Okay, so therefore they will save their money in US financial institutions. So this is why when there's a high interest rate in US, that will actually attract more capital flow to US, which result in economic growth. Okay, or else it's unusual because only lower interest rate will result in higher economic growth because of lower cost of borrowing. Okay. So basically, I covered all the additional questions already, right? Did I miss out anything? Like, did I miss out any of the additional questions that I have not discussed yet? I believe those additional questions that are left from the past few sessions are from tutorial 10, 11, and 12, right? Yeah. Yes. So what? 什么？诶，这一般如果我要拍一个 group photo 能拍到吗？学，对，我看是要来做我们的 YouTube 的 thumbnail。
万人能够分享都会。
笑，不是啊，可以吗？可以吗？等一下怎样拍啊？有没有 idea 啊？真的啊，他们会做吗？我怕我一 show 那个 assignment mark 出来，没有人要做。
你不是读书的时候
你的老师 show assignment 了吗？
没有啦，我知道他们没改牌子，
是啊。
你可能这样子
You want to see assignment marks, man? Tomorrow, next time only see ah. Today don't see first ah. Today don't see first. 等到过了几个你们联络不到我才放吧。
要联络总会
No, I think okay. You all should not have too much of expectation. Okay, you expect 24 out of 35. 真的最高就达到了 31. 31 highest already. 31.95. Sorry.
说好的。
多0.05下，要不然拉0.05下来。你啦，写太好啊！
给他杀杀人，给他滚滚蛋。
Okay, how will you answer this question?
Hey, this question. Why people delay marriage? Okay, therefore high opportunity cost for women to get married. Financial burden, no money to give birth to children.
Points here. Okay, some points only, not the full answers. You pandai change it, Okay, so last week I asked you a question. I asked you to go back and think. The question is, listen, what are the three reasons? What are the reasons why Indonesia cannot achieve economic growth? Yeah, why Indonesia cannot achieve high economic growth as other developing countries? Let's no, not for this. This is 50 marks.没有，Not only financial credit. Hey, okay, what you can write? 你们想最久啊，OK， 你们最早知道的题目来了。What will you write that one? Politics instability. That's why. Not stable. No. They got scandal towards their politicians one. Cannot lah way. They also got education. Cannot. Keep 一直写一样答案嘛。Huh? What? God, they also got 啦。又可以一直用回忆这个东西。你们拿 supply side policy 当 opposite 罢了。这题那题15分，对，刚刚我讲的那题。写3个 point，3个 point 然后解释3段话。I want 3 paragraph. 1 point 1 paragraph so 3 paragraph. Why Indonesia is having low economic growth? 你刚才讲什么了？应该讲过哪一个？我讲 population。不是，另外一个你讲 politics 吗 ？Politics one of the answer. What else? Next currency. Currency. Why their currency value is lower? Natural disaster. No. Investment climate. Investment climate. Government policy. Global economic. Be specific can or not? Okay. 什么东西导致它的 currency fall in value This is money supply due to the employment. That's the answer that I asked you That one. Okay, resulting in inflation. You write inflation first. Then only resulting in what you say just now. Okay, inflation. Second paragraph. So inflation can talk a lot of things really. Inflation talk about value of currency. Correct. Increase by supply. Yes. Hey, 有听吗？喂。Okay. What else? 你从 ChatGPT 找到答案没有 ？No. They also have high poverty one， 哪里可以讲它有Okay, you use 40, then you say the country has too many population。你这样 link 我就可以哦。你刚才讲 low population 吗？你现在讲那个 population 并且讲 poverty poverty。还有一个很重要的 corruption。 Corruption is very high. Indonesia.
Indonesia比较高啊。我去过，我的在我的美国，international 是来做。哦，我是班上唯一一个马来西亚人。
Yeah. So Indonesia has high corruption. Okay. So go back do research how to write 啊，think 15分啊，可是这是上个 sem 的啦，可能他不会出啊。OK， 来啊 ，OK， what things you need to know at least for your research? Okay, okay, these are things you must know when you revise. Okay, so that's the basic concepts only. Okay, now see first of all, ADAS is a basic. Okay, now when we talk about inflation and employment, I want you to go back and read the understanding of CPI. Remember, I asked you to in my notes. There's a table showing you the pros and cons of CPI. Okay, take note of that. Okay, CPI. Now, types of unemployment, you have 3, right? Okay, I show a question. See, okay, listen now the questions. So, the 3 types of unemployment, you must really remember very well. How to explain fractional, structural, and cyclical. You must remember very well. Now, let's say I ask you a question. Among these 3 types of unemployment, which types of unemployment are more severe, are more risky to the country? And one more actually. No, what more? Then structural and cyclical. But why? Why these 2 unemployment are dangerous to an economy? Structural and cyclical are not good for the economy. Why? But if you write definition, I say you did marks of definition or not. But now I ask you why is that structural and cyclical will be not good, dangerous for the economy? No, recession is okay, not clear cut, not 不够明显, not specific. Unclear. Okay, so why that was structural, why is that not good for the economy? Why is that dangerous? Why is that a concern to government? Because they have the geographical frictional also unemployment. Okay, the answer is because for these 2 types of unemployment, it takes longer time for people to get a job. So the time gap is very long. So therefore, it will be a concern to government. Unlike frictional, frictional is just a short period of time, so it's not a concern. But structural and cyclical is a concern because it takes a long time for the people to get a job. So therefore, when I'm saying taking a long time, like for example, under structural, it is concerned because the skill is no longer in demand. So until when the people learn some new skills or when there's a demand for that industry, then only they'll be having a job. Okay. As for cyclical, it's because of recession in which the country is in a slump and it takes time for them to actually for the economy to recover and people get a job. So there's a time gap over here. Okay. Now, the next one, monetary policy, you must know the functions of money and the interest rate and non-interest rate determinants. And I want you to study the questions in tutorial 9, especially additional questions. Tutorial 9, burn it and drink it though. Okay, so tutorial 9 is important. Okay, now next one, exchange rate. You need to understand basic of balance of payment. That's the definitions. Okay, and make sure you know how to explain trade flow, capital flow, and speculative flow, and also the floating and fixed exchange rate system. And when you revise this one, I want you to focus on additional questions in your tutorial 10 as well, the one that we discussed just now. Okay, then the rest are just common stuff. Fiscal policies, supply side policies. Okay, as for calculations, a few things that I want you to take note when you revise. First one is Keynesian income. Your tutorial 5 and 6, either closed or open economy. Calculation of unemployment and labor force, your tutorial 2. Now, calculation of our GDP and NGDP is the tutorial through the additional homework that I asked you to do. The one green color one, the tutorial through got one part green color one, right? Yeah, that's important as well. And lastly is the last question of the tutorial through that I want you to focus on. Okay, so these are things that you must know at least, so that that would be sufficient for you to at least pass. Okay.